MC, what's the argument then? You speak about focus, essentialism, etc. What's the argument for accounting partners that are very happy doing compliance? They have a wonderful practice, a wonderful client base, good staff, everything's solid, it's ticking along, it's growing by 3 to 5% every year. Isn't that part of what they would argue? Well, you know, I'm focusing. I'm focusing on what I'm good at, what my clients use me for, and the firm is doing quite well.
That's an excellent point. And to reiterate, accounting firms do not have to do advisory. That compliance is a very comfortable couch. They don't have to get off it. It's a very comfortable business, and it's a really valuable business because compliance can be done poorly. We all know that. And the shit hits the fan when it is done poorly or late, etc. So it's a really important piece in the whole puzzle for someone in business.
The only reason I bring it up is because you mentioned the stats of like to me before, 9 out of 10 want to do it, only one out of 10 actually doesn't. I think that gap is really people want to do something or because they feel they should be doing because everyone is going on about it. The institute is going on about
Well,
it.
that's the worst possible reason to do something.
But do you think that's probably what's happening, where they say they want to do it, but they don't really want to do it? They're doing it because everyone's telling them they should do it.
Yeah, is it like fluoro socks in the 80s or something? Everyone's wearing them. I don't know why I thought of that. Yeah, look, that's the worst possible reason is to do it because it's where the industry is shifting. You've really got to, again, I'll use the phrase, give a shit. Like really care that it's something that you want to deliver. But you don't have to. But I'll tell you this much. Your small business clients have a need, not all clients at all times, but a percentage of your clients at certain points in their journey will require advice around improving their business strategy, their business model, their technology, the way they manage their cash flow, the way they're structured, etc. And they're going to get that advice from somewhere. One of the things that really irks me, and I'm probably not preaching to the unconverted with the audience here, Michael, but the whole business coaching franchise model over the last 20, 30 years has just been a joke. That so much bad advice from non-accountants where people thought, oh yeah, I'm going to become a business coach. I'm a failed small business person myself. I'll go and pay 10 or 20 grand to some, I won't mention any brand names, some coaching franchise, get flown off to somewhere exotic for a week. And hey, presto, I'm a business coach. And, you can grow a business broke. We all know that. So the point of that rant is the small business community has a need to be advised, to be guided. And the only reason that the business coaching, I won't even use the profession as a word, industry evolved was because they weren't getting that advice from their accountants. And whose fault is that? It's no one party's fault. It's systemic. They didn't even know to ask their accountants about it. One phrase, I remember when I was still at Business Fitness and I was at this conference talking to an accountant who's I knew really well. He's in Adelaide. His name's Scott. And I remember in one of the breaks, he went, oh, marketing, I don't sell anything to anyone. And I said to him, you're damn straight. You don't. Because the belief is, if a client wants something, they'll ask for it. That is utter bullshit. A client might ask for something that they know that you deliver. Could you please lodge my end of year tax, for example, to give a super basic, stupid example. But when it comes to advisory, the small business community, the average small business client does not know what they don't know. In neurolinguistics, in learning methodology, unconscious incompetence. They're incompetent, but they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. It's like the beginner golfer goes off to the golf driving range, gets a bucket or two of balls, hits 100 or 200 balls and thinks they've practiced golf. They haven't. They've just reinforced very bad habits. So when you don't know what you don't know, well, you can't learn until you reach conscious incompetence is when you start to realize there are things that you don't know. And to me, small business is a bit like parenting, right? Parenting and small business are very excited to kick off. The processes that start them are quite exciting, but I've spoken to many people that have started businesses or families and have admitted, geez, I didn't know how much was involved when we got into this. So there's a need for education in the small business market. It's, someone can go off and do a couple of different registrations, depending what country they're in, and hang out their shingle and they're in business. And Michael Gerber, with his E-Myth Revisited book over the years, has educated people really well on the fact that technicians are not entrepreneurs. And most people listening to this podcast, I'm sure, have read that book. So you cannot assume, to come back to my point, that a small business person, a client of your accounting firm, is going to ask for advisory. They will never ask. One of my favourite sayings in marketing was by a gentleman, Jay Abraham, who, when I was at Results Corporation, we brought out from the States a number of times to do some marketing boot camps. His phrase is, people are silently begging to be led. I love that phrase. They are silently begging to be led. So they're not going to ask out loud for leadership, but you show leadership and then people will follow. So that's why getting on the front foot and educating your small business clients how they can do things better. And it doesn't have to be freaking Boston Consulting Group, Harvard Business School level of advisory. It can just be really basic stuff, like the number of retail businesses, for example, that you walk into and you think, oh my goodness, I don't know where to stand to order. I don't know where to stand to wait after I've ordered. They're not using a proper point of sale system. They didn't capture my details. They'll never be able to market back to me again. There's a whole lot of basic stuff that a basic small business could do better. And the accounting profession can easily guide their business clients along those lines.
MC.
And I think it's just really personally a moral obligation to do so. That's my belief. Plenty of people would have other beliefs.
No, it makes sense. In the current landscape, and obviously, look, things keep changing all the time in terms of different strategies, different tools now. What would you advise an accounting firm as to the most effective strategies today for marketing?
Okay, wow. The most effective strategies for marketing for an accounting firm.
Top three.
Okay. Number one, have one. Okay. So have a strategy. Actually, upstream from that, Michael, is let's call this number 0. Learn what strategy is. Because strategy is not taught in an accounting degree. It's not taught, and I've seen the content of the public practice programs that the different professional bodies run. They generally don't teach strategy. And strategy is one of these things. Here's a paradox. Simple doesn't mean easy. Some things in life, the most important things in life, are very simple, about maintaining your health and well-being and relationships. But just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. But strategy is very simple. But people find it hard because strategy is more about saying no than it is about saying yes. So there are frameworks. Michael Porter, who many people would have heard of, he's got some brilliant models like Porter's 5 Forces of Industry Competitiveness, etc. His 3 generic strategies, which can be combined into a matrix of 4 options. In my view, there is only one of his 3 generic strategies that is a valid, available strategy to most accounting firms. When I say most, I'm talking 90+%. Because there's differentiation, cost leadership, and focus. Now, differentiation doesn't mean claiming you're different, which a lot of accounting firm websites do. Differentiation means actually having something different that your competitors don't. Now, the last time I looked, most accounting firms have a similar business model, are hiring from a similar labour pool with a similar tech stack. They're not actually differentiated. So differentiation is if you, I don't know, a pharmaceutical company or a medical device company or technology company, and you've got a piece of intellectual property that is different. So that strategy is not really available. So the next strategy of cost leadership doesn't mean discounting. It's actual cost leadership in terms of low-cost production. So sometimes first movers will have those. I think probably about 15 years ago, the accounting firms that first started to get into outsourcing, insourcing, offshoring, etc., the early movers in that had a comparative advantage on their production costs. Now it's becoming very, very common, and now they're like fluoro socks in the 80s. A lot of people are doing it because they think they have to. And others are still not doing it. But cost leadership means you actually have a lower cost way of doing business. Like look at the way IKEA totally changed the way the furniture business worked. So Most accounting firms don't have that option available to them. So that leaves focus. And focus strategy is not about saying we're the best. I call it the 3 Bs of marketing. To say that you're best at something, or to say we're better than others, or just blah, 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 which is we're more professional, we're more caring, we're more experienced, we're dedicated. Like, give me a break. You're dedicated? What are you doing? Writing a book? Singing a song? Get your guitar out. So most of what accounting firms say on their websites is just blah, blah, blah. But what focus strategy does, and I'll give everyone a book to read, Blue Ocean Strategy. If you haven't read that, it's about 18 years old now. Blue Ocean Strategy, brilliant metaphor.
Great book.
The ocean's enormous. So don't get in the thrashing about in the bloodied waters of direct competition, saying the same things, targeting the same client types, etc. Focus just allows you to say, rather than say we're the best or we're better, you just say we're over here. And
is that niching, basically? Is that what you're referring to?
I avoid using the word niching, and I'll tell you why. People misinterpret what it means. Niching does not solely mean industry focus, though it can be industry focus. So I prefer to use Porter's term of a focus strategy. But you can have an industry niche, you can have a business stage niche, you can have a psychographic niche in terms of growth-oriented, ambitious clients that you're targeting. But often it is an industry niche. But anyone who says niching means industry specialization is naive or partially educated.
So what would be a good focus strategy, or someone that's done it really well?
Oh, wow. I can give you so many examples. So many examples. And I almost have to give more warnings than examples. So as a business, you don't have to hang your hat on one niche. Now, I'll give everyone another in-depth thing to read. If you Google Practice Paradox and 6 Degrees of Niching, that's a series of blog posts that I wrote about the fact that niching is not binary. There's a spectrum, a continuum to go from strong niching down to multi-niching, etc. So there's different flavors here. So you don't have to hang your hat wholly and solely on one particular niche, though you can. A word I often use when guiding people on strategy, Michael, is the word valid. It's like, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's valid. It's like, what are you going to eat tonight? There's not one thing that's right or wrong. There's some valid choices. So the same as strategy. So I'll give you some examples. Let's start with, say, a medium-sized firm that came to us when they'd been marketing a lot, but in the third gear of marketing that we referred to earlier. So they were doing a lot of blogging, they were producing a lot of video, but for the amount of time, effort, and energy they were putting into it, they weren't getting the results. So Tanya Titman, the founder of Consolidate, if anyone wants to look them up, the 8 on the end is the figure 8, consolidate.com.au. Yep. In the last year or so, they were acquired by BDO in Australia, which was a very happy outcome. And that's going extremely well for them. So what they didn't realize is that they hadn't done their strategy piece right. And when I say right, thoroughly is what I mean there. So we step them through our framework. We start all firms that work with us, Michael, on a strategy fast track. Because strategy is just a series of decisions. And those decisions don't have to take a year. They can be made over the course of a week or two, those decisions. Just like decisions about where you're going to live or how you're going to lead your life. They don't have to take long. But the word decision comes from a Latin root, which means to cut. So it's about cutting off options. So with Consolidate, what they realized when they went through our strategy fast track process is that they had inadvertently been scattergunning their content over, and this was a number that Rebecca, who was their business development manager, she's awesome, said, MC, we've been probably going at about 32 different niches. I said, well, there's an oxymoron right there to have 32 niches as a small firm. And what we helped them do, Michael, is to find 4. They'd since expanded that out to 5, but 4 very clearly defined target markets. And we go through a process where you give each of them a nickname, like they had Digital Dave and Savvy Sally and Multi-Mike, etc. I won't go into the details now. But then when they were producing their...
Creating avatars, basically.
Yeah, avatars, target buyer personas. And they were then able to create really focused content that resonated with those target markets. And then their marketing started to work way, way better. Just in one of those target buyer personas, in the first 12 months after defining it, they added over $1 million in new revenue of service that they weren't previously providing, but they worked out that they could easily provide, and it was very scalable. It took Tanya 1 day a month to deliver this service.
So what's a typical ROI that your clients would get? Like typical average?
Oh, look, that's really difficult to put a number on. I'm not being evasive on that. In terms of ROI, and there's so many ways to measure that, because I think there's the economist's hat and there's the accountant's hat. So I think the biggest issue for someone with their marketing is the opportunity cost. So it's the opportunity cost of either not doing it or doing it and doing it wrong, when you could be picking up clients that are extremely valuable to you and they're just going to someone else rather than you. So look, ROI, there are so many factors in there, but look, the average firm spends about $2,000 a month with us. You know, people can spend as little as $500 a month with us. So we're not even, for most firms, talking about the cost of half a receptionist. And then we work as a marketing team where we've got people to write content, do the designs, put the blog posts up, do the social media posts, do the SEO, etc. So, you know, they wouldn't even be able to get half a marketing coordinator to do that for that price. And, you know, it's very common for people to pick up, 1, 2, 3, 4 new clients a month when they get their marketing machine going. But, you know, a big disclaimer on all of that is the style of marketing that we do. It's called inbound marketing, which is the beautiful thing, because it means people are coming to you. You're not having to, God, I hate when people call me, email me, message me in LinkedIn, and I don't know them, and they're reaching out. They're reaching out to me. So, mate, if I needed your services, I can easily find you. So we help people achieve the same thing, where our clients have people who've searched on a particular phrase, found the website, found the blog post, and then they inquire. But here's the disclaimer, is it takes about 5 or 6 months to really get that cranking. You don't just publish an article or two and all of a sudden you're seen as some sort of guru. So it takes that consistent, I use the term cadence from cycling and from music, which just means, that consistency. I think a lot of people go wrong with marketing when they do it in drips and drabs and fits and starts. You've really got to stay focused and consistent. So look, ROI, to give you a succinct answer, if the marketing is not more than paying for itself within 5 to 6 months, well, something's going seriously wrong. And the good news is with marketing is it's very, very measurable in terms of website traffic, list growth of your email list, and ultimately leads.
Okay. So, I mean, but for most of your clients, you would say, A, they pick up 1 to 4 clients a month. But then I also imagine when you take into account the value add chasm that you bridge and you increase your fee size, not only you picking up new clients, you're probably also upselling. I know you don't like that word, but offering more services and therefore generating a higher fees per client overall.
Yeah, completely.
Would you say that's also a big ROI with the way you guys approach marketing?
It is. And apart from the fact that grows revenue, and if you're delivering those services scalably, growing profit as well, you're doing the right thing by your clients. If they've got that need, they need some help steering the ship into the future, it's just a very, very morally right thing to do, is to help your clients do that. So, it is win-win. But as I mentioned before, it's not uncommon for an average firm to triple their average fee with a small business client once they bake in, I always use that term, bake in advisory as a standard part of the package where they're doing the monthly management reports. Because let's face it, how easy it is to produce those. But then to do the commentary and optionally the accountability piece on top of those to get more and more of their clients. We've got clients where all of their clients are on the advisory services because that is the option.
What's the accountability piece? I know the management accounting is popular. What's the accountability piece? How does that work?
Yeah, I did skim over that. Thanks for coming back to that. So the accountability piece is when people look at the value pyramid model that I mentioned earlier, at the very top of the pyramid is innovation. So innovation is coming up with new and novel solutions. It's creativity in business, basically, is what innovation is. The next one down is strategy. So strategy is applying known strategies to familiar situations. So I've done this before with another client. I know if we do it over here with you, it's going to work. Now, the next level down, to answer your question of accountability, is you don't have to have your advisory team members being the ones with 20, 30 years experience in the grey hair or missing hair to go with it, right? And when you're telling someone how to run their business, You need to be bloody experienced to tell someone who knows their business better than you ever will how to run their business. Whereas the accountability piece it's essentially a question methodology of, let's say a business has inventory that's increased month on month for 5 months in a row, right? And that's plain to see in the report. So at one level of the clarity piece would be to give a report where that shows the graph going in the wrong direction. Inventories going up, 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 up. Then the commentary piece, which is the next layer of value up, is to bring that to their attention and to talk about the effect that that's having on their cash reserves and their cash cycle, etc. And the accountability piece is this. Okay, Michael, I'll pretend you're the business client. Okay, Michael, so you can see here that the inventory has increased by X% 5 months in a row now. What's causing that? Right, so as a business owner, you'll have a pretty good idea what's causing that. You'll either know what's causing it or have a pretty close idea of one or two things that could be causing it. Then the accountability then is, okay, what needs to be done? Oh, well, I really need to negotiate better terms with this supplier. And gosh, we've had a standing monthly order with this other supplier and I've been too busy to dial that back. Or that product's not selling. It was a really hot product through summer. Whatever the answer is, right? So what needs to happen? Who needs to do it? And by when? So what's causing it? What needs to be done? By whom and by when? Here's the accountability piece. You use a collaborative. I'm a big fan of cloud. Our business has been cloud-based from day one. Never had a server, never will, as most businesses are these days. And so you use a cloud-based app like Carbon's got this really cool thing now where into the CRM, you can put a task that's not for the staff member, but for the client. And so you share a collaborative task list. And at the end of a meeting, the advisor might have action items the firm's going to do, but the client needs to have action items that they're going to do. And here's why it's important that firms cannot continue to hire grinders and expect to deliver advisory at this layer of value. Is grinders are low assertiveness. They're happy to be told what to do. They're not as happy to make suggestions. So they like, give me a to-do list and I'll churn through it. And that's a value. But what an advisor with moderate level of assertiveness can do is hold that person accountable so that the client does everything they can to make sure that they say, okay, so what's the date today? It's the 2nd of the month. All right, I'm going to need 2 weeks to get that done. I'll get that done by the 16th. Right, okay. So then it gets written down, it gets put into a trusted system, to use a term from Getting Things Done book, and then the conversation is had either the day before or on the day. Okay, you said you were going to do this action by now. Have you done it?
How do you charge for that? Do you charge it as a special line item, or do you just package it up and call it advisory?
Oh no, you absolutely. It's a line item that they pay for, and you could call it whatever.
How would you charge for that?
How would you charge for it? Look.
Yeah, is it a monthly thing?
Oh yeah, monthly for sure. I thought you were asking about pricing. Now with pricing, one of the things that we do in the Strategy Fast Track in the extended version is to help people work out their pricing, where a lot of what people call pricing is not pricing, it's really costing. The whole idea of having a multiple in business is, okay, what's it going to cost us to deliver with the labour, etc., and the multiple of 3 or 4. So that's not pricing, that's costing, but you still got to do it. So that's why I talk about the economist's hat and the accountant's hat. So the economist's hat is, what is this worth to the client? So there's a series of questions. What is this going to cost the client if they don't address it? Or what is this going to cost to the client if they try to do it themselves and it takes them away from other things in their business, like looking after their own customers, getting new customers, developing their staff, etc. And so when you do a top-down pricing and bottom-up costing, you then get a ballpark of where it's met. One of our clients I guided on this, his name's Matt. He's based in Bathurst, New South Wales. And he called me up and he goes, oh, yeah, MC, I'm doing value pricing on this service. And we're currently pricing it as $18,000 a year. But my gut's telling me we're leaving money on the table. And I said, so tell me, how are you pricing that? And then he described the methodology, which was bottom-up costing. I said, Matt, you're not doing value pricing at all. You haven't at once addressed the question of what's it worth to the client. So I stepped in through the methodology of the what's it worth to the client to either do it or not do it. And you do the bottom-up costing as well, because clearly you have staff costs, that need to be met. But then you can lock in your profitability from the get-go. And he actually increased that service to $30,000 a year, and the client didn't bat an eyelid because of what it was worth to them. So yes, monthly retainer for sure, depending on what the client is. And what their revenue is and what their profitability, what's sustainable. Wow, what a business an accountant is in, where you can see their financials, you can see how liquid they are. So you're not going to suggest something to a client that it's a bit ridiculous that, they really just can't free up, X thousands of dollars extra per month or not. You can see the reality of their financials. So you're not going to suggest something stupid to them. Another client that comes to mind is a regional client. His name's Peter in Victoria, and he has a lot of tradie clients. And get this, what he did with them was held them accountable on getting invoices out, like quotes out, and money in. And he had a 15-minute phone call with them on a Friday. And his average hourly yield on that was the highest he was getting in his whole business, because the clients didn't care that it was only 15 minutes. It was the same amount of value as if it had gone for an hour and a half. But they knew that they said they were going to get out X number of quotes and they were going to chase up X number of invoices, and that he was going to be on the phone. So
how much would you charge for that, though? Like, what's a realistic number, as an example?
Well, it would depend on the size of the business, but it could be a $500 a month thing, for example, to a trade business. And if that's taking you 15 minutes a week, now keep in mind it's accountability. So here's the big difference, and why I talk about that value pyramid, is the advisor has not been telling the business owner what to do or giving them the solutions, because the business owner has that accumulated experience in their head. And if they take the time to do some slow thinking and are asked the right questions, see, that's the power of an advisor. It's not what they say, it's what they ask. And so that's why you can have someone who's 25, but with a good amount of rapport and assertiveness with the client, hold them accountable. So yeah, you could easily get a $500, $600 hourly yield on a service like that, and the clients will happily pay for it. But it doesn't have to be weekly, it doesn't have to be phone, it doesn't have to be a web meeting. It depends on the client's communication preferences as to how often you did it. But I will say this, if it's any less than monthly, it's useless.
Okay. MC, just circling back to what we were talking about before. So you mentioned the cost investment, that your clients normally make with you. What's the time investment that's expected to get that ROI using the strategies that you propagate?
Okay, so the amount of time that someone would spend working with us?
Yeah. Well, just in general, how does a partner require, I don't know, 2 hours a week, 5 hours a week to get results over those 5 or 6 months and get that sort of cadence going?
Far less than that. One of our mantras internally here is making it easy. So our goal is to make sure that our services are making things easier for our clients, not harder. So when we start that strategy fast track program, we used to actually deliver that in a 2-day workshop where people would get in airplanes and whatever and come to a resort location. And
back in the old days,
the results that we were getting from that event was phenomenal. And we had so many people leave an event once. It was on the Sunshine Coast. And person after person after person, as they were walking out the door on the last day, a number of them had sort of been working with us for 6 months, 9 months prior to that event, because we were only doing that event once a year. And they were saying, I wish this was the first thing that we ever did with you, because light bulbs have gone on big time. So as a team, we went, okay, how can we deliver this more often? So we took it online. And the point of this is we used to deliver that over a month. The strategy fast track, it's called. And we've had clients say, I don't know why you're not charging $20,000 for that. You should be applying value pricing to that. You're telling us to value price. I said, well, part of our business model, it would actually prevent people coming through our full process. If we charge 20 for that, we charge 2,000 for that, with the money back guarantee on it as well. So it used to take a month to go through that. And when I say a month, that was a month of 4 2-hour sessions. So 8 hours. But I don't know, the world's speeding up now. And now we deliver the same thing in a week, where people come on a Monday online, on a Wednesday and a Friday, and get through the first 3 sessions of their strategy pieces, and then have a one-on-one with us the following week. So that's their time commitment up front. Then, so that's the first gear, strategy. Second gear, to hark back to the gear analogy, of presence, depending where they're at with their name, their visual branding, their website content, their website design, there might be a number of projects that need to be done. And those projects will usually take about 2 months, give or take, depending. So those projects don't take the client a lot of time because specialists on our team and in our network are actually the ones doing the work, but the client has to complete the brief session with us. That takes them 2 hours. It's a sort of a facilitated process for them to write the brief and answer all those questions that the copywriter who's writing the content, the designer needs to know. But rather than just flick a questionnaire through the email to the client who'll never get around to it,
it's a back and forth collaboration.
We give them an appointment to turn up to make sure it gets done. And then, frankly, after that, Michael, there's not that much time involved in terms of creating the content. So with that brain dump, the people that get us to do custom articles for them, their brain dump usually takes them about 20 to 30 minutes per article. And most people do 2 articles a month, so there's an hour a month right there. So that's on custom content. We do have an option of off-the-shelf articles where essentially our clients don't even have to lift a finger. That I won't go into detail now on that because there's some things to explain about the search engine optimization pros and cons of that approach, but it's certainly the most time efficient approach for our clients. And most clients go for that. We've got a library of pre-written articles that they just go, "Ooh, I'll have that one, I'll have that one, I'll have that one."
Besides content, because it sounds like it's a big part of your strategy, so blogging basically on their website, is there any other strategies that they should be employing or that you employ on their behalf?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just make a quick distinction between the strategies and the tactics, because the strategy is fundamentally who do we want to attract, what do we want to sell, how do we want to price it, and what's our core messaging. So that's the strategy. And then the tactics. So here's, like, if you even want to just have an identity as a modern business, as a professional, accounting firm, you should be doing your blogging. But putting the blogs up, they don't promote themselves. So we have a service called the blog promotion service. So you then need to be doing social posts to let people know about those blog posts and link back to them. You need to be doing an email newsletter that, again, the purpose of your email newsletter is to get people to read those articles, because that's what's going to educate them, is what's going to create that cognitive dissonance. Oh my God, I won't mention any names, but I saw a service offered by a prominent, I don't know what they are, business coaching, software business. And they had this service that was an email newsletter service. And a client of ours said, "Oh, these guys are trying to sell me that. What do you think of this?" And we had a look at it. And imagine you're an accounting firm and you're using this service. One of your clients, or all of your clients, they get this email newsletter. They click on the link to read an article. The article was not even on the accounting firm's website. Bum, bum. That's my failed buzzer sound. That is just, I'm going to swear again, that is just so shithouse. That is pointless. Pointless is to send people an email newsletter that when people click the links, it goes to the content provider's freaking website instead of the accounting firm's website. So other things, SEO. So SEO, search engine optimization. It sounds scary. It sounds technical. And I think every one of us gets at least one email a day that says, "Dear Sir/Madam, I have been looking at your website and I have ascertained that it is not ranking well." If they don't know what your strategy is and what your keyword phrases are, they don't know how you're ranking. And if they have to reach out to me with outbound freaking email, they are not very good at SEO, because I would have found them already myself. So anyway, so avoid people who reach out to you to do SEO, particularly if they're not in your culture in terms of understanding the industry and the country that you're in, because bad SEO can ruin your articles. So, and by that I mean, this firm in Adelaide came to us after they'd spent $1,000 or $2,000 a month for a whole year with this search engine optimization SEO provider out of, I don't know, Philippines or India or somewhere. And their website, before the SEO people got to it, used to read okay. But after the SEO people got to it, it said something along the lines of, Adelaide business owners. We are Adelaide business accountants, and we enjoy serving businesses in Adelaide because businesses in Adelaide are our passion. So keyword stuffing, right? So that's an attempt. And by the way, Google these days would even penalize that because the keyword density is unnaturally high. So it's just dumb on all levels. So we do SEO, right? But we do SEO intelligently and strategically so that it's still a great article to read for a human being. There's this rule. You create content, number one, for humans and number two, for Google. Secondly, for Google. Bad SEO people get it the other way around. They think, oh yeah, the number one thing is to rank well. And that's when you see articles. And short articles are such a waste of time. Like, those articles that are like 200, 250 words long. And they don't teach you anything and you're left deflated. It's like a speed dating exercise where you think, not that I've done that, maybe I should have, but it's such a waste of time. It's such a vacuous, superficial piece of content that there's no freaking point in ranking well. So I highly recommend SEO, but you've got to have it done by someone who understands your country and the fact that you're a B2B professional services business. Now, we actually give our clients, Michael, a platform we call Implementer. The thing that I mentioned earlier called the Modern Marketing Academy that Steph Hines from GrowthWise and Tanya Titman from Consolidate, etc. do. What we consolidated that into a platform and a self-service thing where all of that knowledge is in there. And the Implementer platform will show you how you're ranking for your strategic keywords. It even shows you how you're going against three of your competitors, what your website traffic's like, what needs to be fixed on your website, what's slowing down your website, what other websites that are helping you with your rankings are linking to your website. So this is all what's called technical SEO and allows you to tweak things so that your business ranks well in Google. Now, just to finish off that point, if people are thinking, who cares? If you're not in the top 3 at the top of page 1 of Google, you're pretty much not in Google because the top 3 get 80% of the clicks. So if someone's searching for an accountant or advisor of your type and you're not at the top of page 1, you're not going to get very many clicks at all. Now, there's something now called position 0, which means it's above the first listing, and that's up in the locations. So, under the map there. And there's a whole range of things that affect whether you show up in the map. Things like how well your Google My Business profile is filled out, which again is something that we help people with. So that's part of search engine optimization. Most people's Google My Business information is just not filled out properly or completely. Other things like reviews. Here's a huge take home for everyone right now. One of our clients, they're in Northern Beaches area in Sydney called Eagle Financial. They reached out to us because one of the things that we do apart from publishing content each month is be the strategic sounding board for accounting firms when they've got ideas or challenges or things they want to implement. And they said, hey, MC, we're having hundreds and hundreds of documents go out every month now. With COVID, we're seeing people less face-to-face and they're signing through EchoSign or whatever it was, one of those products. And they said, would we be able to do it so that after they signed it on screen and they clicked the button, it didn't just go to like, thank you, a generic page, but to go to a page where we give them some useful information, maybe ask them for a review? And number one, I said, that's a great idea. What you need to do is talk to the provider and see if you can do a conditional or a custom thank you page. And the provider came back and said, yeah, you can do that. There's a field here. You just put in the web address of that. Get this, in the first month or so that they implemented that, where instead of the generic thanks for signing our document, they went to a page that said, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time to sign the document. And this was earlier in the lockdown phases of COVID, but I'll paraphrase the wording. It was, our team's been working, round the clock to make sure that, you don't miss out on any of the government incentives. And, we really appreciate your support through the time, and we hope that you're valuing, the efforts that we're going to. And by the way, if you've got any feedback for any of our team members, we'd really love it if you give us our feedback so we could pass it on to them. So if you could click one of the 2 buttons below to give us a review on Facebook or Google, it would mean the world to us. And that was pretty much it, right? They got, I forget the exact number, but it was either side of 80 reviews in a month. Now,
wow.
When a business has over 10 reviews, that's a huge quality and trust signal for Google to rank your website well and to put it up in the map in position 0 up the top there. So that was just to smash it out of the park. Actually, I've got an interview with them that I've done over Zoom that we haven't published yet, telling that story. So it's just so many sort of ninja tactics and lots of little very specific measurable things that if you've got the savvy, you understand the strategy, you understand the technology. And that's why I love marketing, right? Because it's combining the psychology of communication with the technology of leverage. You put those two things together and pow. That's how you can quite readily, a business, in the first 4 to 5 years of its life, can easily double and triple its revenue in a year without killing itself. Just more scalable, more profitable, and really turn your business into a bit like a software as a service model. All your clients, we know that model. Have all your clients on monthly retainers with automatic payments using something like Practice Ignition. God love them. That's a wonderful piece of kit. I don't think there's ever been a bit better time for someone to be in an accounting business. It's very exciting.
MC, quick question. Speaking of tools, what are the tools and tech required for marketing these days?
Okay.
Or the ones that you advocate for?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first one that will come to mind for many people is an email broadcast system. And actually, know Ben Chestnut, one of the founders of MailChimp, a fellow industrial designer. And MailChimp is awesome for newsletters, but it's not very good at what's called marketing automation. So we advise people to use a platform that's now called Keep, which is spelled K-E-A-P. It used to be called Infusionsoft. Other products in that category are things like ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, which is way more expensive. But basically, marketing automation is very important because what that allows you to do is to have little minions, if you like, the software, while you sleep, identifying opportunities of clients and particularly non-clients who are visiting certain pages on your website, clicking certain articles. And that is called behavioral segmentation, where, they read all of the cash flow articles. They clearly have an interest in cash flow. So you can then intelligently and programmatically send them information on a video that you've got on cash flow management, or invite them to your next webinar on cash flow management or your next website. So marketing automation, powerful. Everyone should implement that, but not without guidance. Don't run out and just implement it on your own is a good piece of advice. Now, other things, Google Analytics, it's free. God, I reckon 8 out of 10 accounting firms that come to us don't even know how to log into their Google Analytics, even though they've got it, because the web developer set it up. I don't know, there was some Gmail address somewhere with a username and a password, and it's a forensic exercise for us to get the login. But there's a wealth of information in there. Google Analytics has just produced a brand new platform, version 4, which is pretty damn amazing. A parallel thing to Google Analytics is Google My Business that I referred to before. Make sure that that is absolutely fully implemented. Clearly, social media, I think, gets overrated and overplayed, but it exists and it's a tool. And I think businesses in the B2B space should use it. Just don't be a fig jam. Everyone knows the fig jam. Fuck, I'm good, just ask me. So don't just bloody post images of yourself in your Ferrari or in Bali with your feet up on a bloody table with a cocktail next to a pool. Don't be a wanker. Can I say that? Sorry. So just put value out into social media.
Fig jam. I haven't come across that one. I like it.
Yeah, fig jams. So don't be a fig jam in social media, but do use it to let people know about your good content. So if you're going to use social media, there are some very good apps, and we actually set up one with the people that we do social media for called Social Bee. And it allows you to just more time efficiently post to LinkedIn and post to the other social platforms all in one step. So social media dashboard is very, very useful. But, really, at the end of the day, it's important to just stay focused and keep it simple. A huge mistake I think accounting firms have made. There's one particular business coach over the last, 5 or 6 years that has popularized this idea of a marketing coordinator. Now, there's going to be a bunch of people listening to this podcast that aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. So a marketing coordinator is this role that kind of got invented as this position in a small accounting firm that does the marketing. And so they're called marketing coordinator. They're not called marketing manager, maybe so you don't have to pay the marketing manager pay. And the marketing coordinator is expected to be an all-rounder. They're expected to be good at writing articles, or at least polishing them, good at design, good at the technology piece with email marketing, understand Google Analytics, understand web technology and marketing technology in general. And Occasionally, we meet a good marketing coordinator, but most times they're basically mediocre or worse at every single one of those disciplines. Are they a good copywriter? No. Are they a good designer? Oh my goodness, it's a travesty, the visual pollution that's out there. There should be fines, or there should be like, hey, you have to pay an extra 1% in tax now, like the Medicare levy or something, because you're just polluting the world. And why I'm passionate about this is that we get sent things by new clients. They've got marketing coordinators and they go, oh yeah, we've done this white paper. Can you critique it for us? And we go, well, it's badly conceived, badly written, and badly designed. Other than that, so don't expect a marketing coordinator to be good at creating content, because they're probably not going to be good at creating content. They might be great at helping you promote workshops or seminars and doing logistical stuff. One of the things, now there might be some marketing coordinators spitting their coffee at their speaker now, but marketing coordinators can be awesome if they're very clear on where they can add their best value. So with our implementer platform, what we do is we give the marketing coordinators an interactive checklist of things that they can do in Google Analytics and Google My Business and on their website, of very practical, meaningful things that they can do and chip away at that really does add value to the client's digital marketing. But don't think that your marketing coordinator is going to be good at producing content.
It was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. What's the difference between what an internal marketing team does and what you do? And the different value add from those two sides. So it's good that you've answered that.
Yeah, I wrote a paper. I spoke at what back then was the Institute of Chartered Accountants, or CANS as it is now. And I wrote a paper, and again, I'm happy for you to put it in the show notes, a link. It was a paper about what's the difference between, in an accounting firm, the difference between a marketing director, a marketing manager, and a marketing coordinator, because they are very different things. And a small firm is not going to have three different people. It's the marketing director, the marketing manager, and the marketing coordinator. But those roles still exist in a small firm. It's just that some people will be wearing at least two hats. And, one steers the ship, one marshals resources, and one taps away at the keyboard. And you can't expect a marketing coordinator to be a marketing manager, and you can't expect a marketing manager to achieve much without a budget and some autonomy. So there's been a lot of, what would you say? There's been a lot of sad stories that we hear where people have hired a marketing coordinator or marketing manager, and it takes 12 months for them to work out that it wasn't a good move. Meanwhile, they've spent the direct and indirect costs of that employment, which is always above six figures when you take that into account, particularly director's time. But the bigger cost is that opportunity cost of, they've basically been underperforming for a whole year in their communication.
MC, I know we've gone way over time, so I'm going to start to wrap up. You've been amazing. So I just want to, is there anything else that you would love to say that we haven't touched on? Any other takeaways for accounting firms?
My take-home message would be embrace marketing as education, and think about, what do I need to educate my clients about for them to improve their business and financial situation? And that gives you your focus for what marketing content you should produce. Of course, there's more to it, but that's where you need to start thinking. And if anyone wants to do our strategy fast track, they can get in touch with me. We can have a chat about what that is. I can send them a PDF that outlines it. And the fact that, as I mentioned, it's $2,000 with a money-back guarantee. So it's a pretty easy decision as a first step for someone to take with us.
I'll put all of your contact details on the podcast notes. Got a few rapid-fire questions.
Okay, strap myself in.
Favorite quote?
Favorite quote? Wow. We have a Slack channel in our business where we do a quote. Hashtag Wisdom Wednesday. Let me just look up what I last did. Favorite quote? I don't want to do a common one here. God, I feel like I need to look that up because so many are coming to mind. You've got a lot of paradoxes.
So I figured you must have a quote somewhere there as well.
Favorite quote? I'm going to think about that, and you can edit out the pause.
Okay, cool. Well, keep going.
All right.
What have you read, watched, or learned recently that's had the most impact on you?
Geez. What have I essentially learned recently that's had the most?
Yeah, either you read something, you watched something, a movie, a show, or learned something from someone. You're like, oh, wow.
Well, I think the most important thing in business. Even though I am by nature into innovation and creativity, etc., I think having skills in execution, getting things done. So even though we're in marketing, some of the books that I most commonly recommend to our clients, because I can see they're kind of bouncing around from one priority to the next, are things like The 4 Disciplines of Execution, The 12-Week Year, Getting Things Done. So just how to focus and execute on a consistent basis.
Those are the main ones you would recommend to accountants to read?
Yeah, and to anyone who leads a life where they need to get things done that might otherwise slide from one week to the next.
Anything specific for accounting?
Specific for accounting? Well, look,
Or
I think
favorite books that you love recommending to your clients?
specific to accounting. One of the things that's different about us is that we don't bring our innovations to the accounting profession from the accounting profession, because I've started a medical device company, I've started a software company, I read very widely. So I don't really look to what's happening in the accounting profession, generally speaking, to find ideas for what the accounting profession should do, if that makes sense. It explains why, when we started, some website providers who specialized in websites for accountants actually ridiculed me when I was suggesting that accountants needed to do blogging and needed to do social media, because it was a concept that was a bit too early for them. But look, really, I think everyone should read Meister's body of work, David Meister. It's just pure wisdom about managing the professional services firms in general.
Okay. I'll ask you now, is there anything that you bought recently that's had a tremendous impact on your life?
Well, I'm an absolute propeller head, like you wouldn't believe. A friend of my daughter had her 14th birthday yesterday, and we took her out last night with some friends, and we were in 2 separate cars, and we were using the new feature in Spotify called a group session. It's in beta at the moment. It's so cool. Your friends in different locations can be listening to a synced up music, so you listen to the same thing at the same time. And then one of her friends, who's 14, went, "Oh my God, look how many apps are on your phone." I went, "Yeah, it's a bit of a problem, isn't it, really?" But I use them. Now, one of the things I think is really a great opportunity for efficiency is for people to use voice to text. Like, wow, voice to text. Like, why are people typing when you can just speak? So here's an app that I don't know if it's on Android. Apologies to the Android users. I'm sure there's equivalent. But on iPhone, there's this app called Email Me. And it's one of these apps that is so simple that's why it's so powerful. And you tap the little microphone on the bottom right-hand corner of the keyboard, talk, then tap the little paper airplane icon, and bam, it sends an email to the pre-designated email address. So I've got one for work and one for personal. And then in Gmail, use filters, or in Outlook, I think they call them rules, to automatically do stuff with that, because it knows the sender, it knows the cues. Okay. So when you get an idea, doesn't matter where you are, 2 seconds later, it can actually be on your to-do list. Send it off. So I think voice to text is a really great thing that people can use to be super efficient.
Who would you want to have a drink with the most in the world, past or present?
Wow. Well, I gave up drinking.
It can be kombucha and tea.
Whatever? In any age?
Any age, past, present, future, if you want.
Does it have to be one person?
We can go for a group. You can have a mastermind going for you.
Well, probably be my grandparents. I didn't meet either of my grandfathers because I was the youngest of 7. And so, yeah, I'd like to have a chat with my mother and father's fathers.
What would you ask them?
About their life, about what was important to them growing up, values, character, raising kids, having good relationship, because they had very colourful backgrounds. One was in the army, and one was publican. So they'd have plenty of stories, I'm sure.
MC, It's been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. And thanks everyone for listening in. I hope everyone got something they can action out of that.